And I talk to a lot of women on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of them put themselves into a box. So when I'm getting a weird look, I assume that's how they think they should react, and they're reacting in the way they think they should, when in reality, they want to be out of the box like I am.
Hey cuties, this is the Dark Side of Perfect. I'm your host Maggie, and today I have a very special guest with us, my sister May, or Medea as is her business name. And today we're going to be talking about the should trap and what it looks like across generations and her journey within the should trap as a youngest sibling compared to mine as the oldest sibling. So let's talk about it. Hi May, welcome to the podcast.
Well, high exchange is really, I didn't write anything in my notes out for that.
You didn't think we would have a high exchange?
Oh,
Okay, fine.
maybe that can be our high exchange.
And it will be. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Hi, I'm Medea. I'm the owner of Binxmajinks Nails LLC. I like long walks on the beach. But no, I'm a business owner. I'm Maggie's youngest and favorite sister. I'm from Colorado. I spend a lot of time with her.
Cool. So before we get into today's episode, I want to say that this is the first episode to season 2 of The Dark Side of Perfect, which is very exciting that we are on our second season and very exciting that we're starting it with my sister, who I love. This episode is going to be all about the should trap. So if you haven't listened to that episode in season 1, go back and listen to it. But basically, as a summary, the should trap is sort of what we define as the perfect girl mold of all of the voices being shouted at you from family, friends, outside influences telling you what you should be doing and how it influences what you want to be doing with your life. And why May is a really great person for this is because she grew up in the same environment as me, so she had a lot of the same shoulds, but now she's a business owner and went on her own path and is making her own way in the world. And I feel so inspired by her. And so I wanted to bring her on and have her talk about for us a little bit so that we can learn more about the should trap from a different perspective. So right now, May is wearing a cheetah print top and jeans and a fur coat and wearing her signature scent, Black Opium.
By YSL.
May, when you're looking at like the newest trends, you've had this same aesthetic almost your entire life. So when you're looking at trends and seeing like people do different things, including your friend group and stuff, how do you stay consistent in your cheetah print signature scent vibe?
I think it's important to explore. And when I put on something other than leopard, like zebra, I feel like an imposter. I think it's very important to stay consistent and true to yourself. And I think for a long time, I felt like I had to be in the box of leopard print.
Mhm.
But I recently brought a zebra print rug, and I feel very good about that. But also, I don't care what other people think. And I spend a lot of time on Pinterest.
Mhm.
And you just have to stop caring, you know? If you want to wear zebra, wear zebra.
Yeah.
But if somebody judges you for the leopard, they don't, they're not you. You have to live in your body, nobody else.
Do you ever get weird looks and just ignore them?
I don't think I'm paying enough attention to other people to notice I'm getting weird looks.
That's interesting.
And I tell myself that nobody's paying attention to me because they're paying attention to themselves.
And I think that's a good life motto to live by.
Yeah. And I talk to a lot of women on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of them put themselves into a box. So when I'm getting a weird look, I assume that's how they think they should react, and they're reacting in the way they think they should, when in reality, they want to be out of the box like I am.
When you were choosing your signature scent, which you've had for several years, how did you find that scent? Because I think in the perfect girl world, aesthetic and signature scents are like a really big buzzword right now.
Yeah.
And so I think finding your signature scent is really interesting.
For sure. I've noticed that, especially on TikTok and stuff, all the conversations about that and the mood boards and stuff, which I think the mood boards are really helpful. I think they kind of help you pick that. But honestly, our super cool older cousin always had so much swagger and she smelled
Yeah.
really good. So I stalked her down and found out the scent. And I think taking inspiration from other women is super important. That's how we build community.
It is, yeah. And I remember when that happened.
And I never gatekeep. I always tell everybody everything I got on.
I think that's important too, because as women, we have to support each other,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to scents that are bomb.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what Black Opium YSL smells like, go to your nearest Sephora and smell it They have a couple of different flavors, black cherry, regular. This is
Mhm.
not an ad.
I wear cherry and regular.
So, now that we've set the scene of who May is, what her aesthetic is kind of like, I want to talk about her business before we talk about the Shit Trap, just to give you some background into what that looks like. So, May owns her own business, as she said, Binxmajinks Nails in Southern Colorado. And so she does nail design. And I've modeled her nails before. They're very cool. She does elaborate artwork, and it's really her canvas that she's doing the art on. As we're talking about the Should Trap, May, did you have an exploratory phase before landing on nails and what you really wanted to do? And how did you pick nails as your creative outlet and your business?
I did. I actually think younger me would be very disappointed I was doing nails.
Why?
I was very much in the mindset that the beauty industry isn't real and it's not attainable. And obviously, that is not true. And I get that now, but before I worked a lot of jobs. I was very good at becoming a manager for 3 days and then disappearing. And I went to school for a lot of things like dentistry and mortuary, dietitian, everything you could think of. And I would say I still explore that. Like I'm trying to get into grills and taxidermy or mortuary beauty or something.
Hmm.
So I think it's still important to explore once you've found your thing. But I picked nails mainly because after working so much and going to so many schools, I just looked at the big picture and asked myself what made me the least miserable. I was like, yeah, and I made a little list of what I wanted my future career to look like and I what I was good at and not good at. And I was not good at having a boss. I was not good at being told what to do and when to be there or homework.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I like painting.
Yeah. So when you were initially going into the beauty industry, you were told that it had a huge barrier to entry and that was holding you back and making you explore some shoulds that people were telling you to do.
I think it wasn't so much a barrier. I was never worried about breaking into the industry because I knew what to do. The only barrier was my social skills, and I was still so young. I knew that would go away. I think the barrier was how we grew up and being told like to be a doctor constantly.
Yeah. Being told education's the
Yeah.
most important, what you should be doing.
When trade school was brought up, it was mainly like mechanics or something like that.
Yeah. Something that uses a lot of brain
Yeah.
capacity and not so much like creative capacity.
Hmm.
And not to say that our family doesn't value creativity. We do. We just also value
But they do.
the shoulds.
They make the dentistry aesthetic, which
Yeah.
was very interesting. It was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. With owning your own business and it being nails, what is your favorite part of it?
I would say that's changed. I was thinking about this a lot going over your questions. And when I first started, I would say it was a lot of the artwork. I really like to do crazy things every single time and see what I was capable of. But now I would say it's honestly my favorite part is the reflection. I really like to go back and see how much my salon has grown. And when I get caught up in things, like I could have a crazy artwork and I'll be so annoyed. And then I just get so happy when I think about how happy I would have been back then. Or when I'm holding a conversation with someone, I like to think about how much I've grown that I couldn't do that 2 years ago. And also when people give me full creativity, which also shows how much I've grown. I would have been so nervous back in the day. I would have been like, no, tell me what you want.
Yeah. But now you like to just do your own thing.
Yeah.
Do they always tell you beforehand that they want that you're gonna have full creativity so you can plan?
No, I just,
You just do it? Whatever you're feeling that day.
yeah, anybody who's my client doesn't really get a choice, honestly.
And I think that's fair.
Sometimes they can show me an inspo, but they know it won't be listened to.
Since our family brings up trade schools and things, and you try and ignore what people think about you, how do you keep the creative energy so high and keep that joy even with voices coming at you?
At this point, I'm very picky with my clientele. I do not just take anybody. I go through everybody's social media. I read their energy before I agree to do their nails. And I think that's really important. I don't let any kind of negativity get to me. You know, I hold very strong boundaries now. I think learning to set boundaries is very important to continue having joy
Yeah.
within your work. And I do get in blocks where I don't want to think about my nails and I don't want to do them. But during that, I usually schedule my clients who I know have such good energy, they'll bring it back. So I really rely on my community a lot for that. And if I'm really having a moment where like I don't even want to do them, then I do take a step back and I spend some time just doing basic and I'll make a press on set of like something that really inspires me, like my favorite movie. And I'll get super hyper focused on that until I start, like
Yeah.
spinballing off of that and getting more ideas.
So, what I hear you saying is setting boundaries. And then when you're feeling a lack of inspiration, going back to what originally brought you that joy to find that joy again. So then you can bring it into your work.
Yeah.
So, kind of taking a little bit of a restful creative period so that you don't get burnt out on it.
Hmm.
I think that makes sense. I think that
I refuse
can
to
be
get
applied.
burnt out.
Yeah. Burnout is the worst. As we're talking about the should trap, I feel like a lot of people automatically think I should start my own business, or they think, like, well, what would I do if it wasn't a 9 to 5? So, as a small business owner, what is the hardest part?
Other than just in general having to do it and the like logistics of things like finances and reading all like the paperwork and stuff, because obviously that's hard no matter what. Am I learning how to do that?
Yeah.
But within the actual practice and day to day, I would say going back to the last question is setting boundaries and acknowledging yourself as a passion and a business because you can get very overwhelmed thinking too businessy and then you like in the realm of nails, obviously every business is different. You start taking people who do bring you down and that's annoying.
Hmm.
Or like I have a bad habit of thinking of people as my friends when instead of clients
Yeah.
and then I'm just broke.
Yeah.
So I would say setting boundaries is definitely a hardest part for me and learning how to do so in a way that's not evil.
Yeah. Finding that balance between passionate creator and
And yeah,
businesswoman.
like professionalism.
Cool. Then let's pivot into some actual should trap questions. So, going back to what you were talking about during your exploratory phase, to your list of what you were good at and what you didn't like about the jobs that you had before, what kind of questions were you asking yourself when you were making that list? Just for people who are maybe working a 9 to 5 or a job that they're not feeling fulfilled in right now, so that they can think about where to go from here.
I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I get more into that later on with your questions about how I was in multiple schools and how I figured out which one I wanted to do. So I think a lot of it was asking myself what other people would think, which I would not do now because I think I would have gotten to where I wanted to be faster. And I thought a lot about how to get to that place, but I also spent a lot of time recognizing my behavioral patterns in what I was doing. I was like, how do I act at my nail school versus how do I act at college?
Yeah.
And how do I act in like my interpersonal relationships when I'm talking about each different thing? And when am I tired? When am I doing this? And I think a lot of the checklist, you have to block everybody out.
Yeah.
You can't listen to a single person, which can feel very lonely and isolating. But people have too many opinions, and you honestly don't even need your own opinion.
Yeah.
Just have to let things happen.
No, we talked about that in a lot of my episodes of like using your actions as data points instead of your feelings as
Yeah.
data points. So, like, how do you act at nail school versus college and using that as the data instead of,
Because, like, as I was telling you
yeah,
earlier, like, obviously going into nail school, I did not have very many strong feelings because I didn't care about it at first, but then I realized, like, I could do it no problem, but I could not go to school. I would wake up every day, 7 AM, be at nail school 10 minutes early, and then I just wouldn't go to class.
yeah, yeah. So, on the, which you wouldn't do now, but thinking about what other people think, I'm sure you get told to get a real job or that nails are just a hobby phase. And we both know that real job comments exist out of wanting like security or future planning by older generations. So when people treat your art and your job like a hobby, how do you keep that from getting in your head? Or do you have to like refocus? Or does it ever feel like you're listening to people say things to you and you're holding your breath and you're just waiting to be yourself away from all of that chatter?
In the beginning, it definitely felt that way. I remember just getting so angry, but I wouldn't say so now. It doesn't, and that took a lot of self-control of letting go and being like, "I'm whatever, that's not my business." And I know what I'm focused on now, but I think it's very important. Something that's helped me a lot with not having that holding breath in my heart and letting it roll off of me so easily is by holding a lot of space in my heart to know that they also grew up in a shit trap. And I have been privileged enough and had the tools to get out of it. And also, I have looked at all of those people who have said whatever things they've said to me, like it's a hobby or whatever, and I don't want their life at
Yeah.
all. So I'm like, you can tell me to go be a dermatologist as a dermatologist. I don't want to be a dermatologist. Just like you don't want to be a nail tech, and I also spent a lot of time looking at perspective and researching the other jobs when I was in the decision phase, and I just thought to myself, if I knew nothing about architecture and I just watched a video on somebody putting together one of their little popsicle stick buildings in school and knew nothing about the skill or knowledge that went into it, I might have also been, "How's your architecture hobby going?"
Yeah.
And so I think you just have to hold the space in your heart and try and put yourself in other people's shoes, even if it might feel very aggravating and annoying, and just let it roll off of you.
And I think that that's really interesting and fair because I think one of the main things that stop people from getting out of the shit trap is what their family is going to say to them. And you can't always recognize when you're talking to someone that they're also from a shit trap and put in a situation where they had these same kind of shoulds put onto them and they're literally just giving you the shoulds to try and protect you,
I think it
even
takes
though,
a long time to get to that point of acceptance.
yeah. And also realization that you're
Yeah.
in the shit trap because you don't always know.
Mhm.
Like, our grandparents definitely
Yeah,
had no idea.
and it takes a lot of frustration on their part, but, you just have to accept who they are.
Yeah.
Just let them go.
So, in like a physical sense, when they tell you to do something else, told you to be a dentist or a dermatologist or whatever, what do you say to them? How do you react?
I definitely was very whatever the word is in the beginning and going along with it where I was like, "Yeah, I'll look into that," and I looked at all their resources and stuff just to get 'em to shut up.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of reactions I do now, and 9 times out of 10, I do what I was talking about before and hold space in my heart, and this is gonna sound terrible, but
I love it.
9 times out of 10, I think of them as a puppy
Hmm.
who is screaming like Anubis, our dog, our beautiful Doberman, love him, who is just screaming. And when you train a puppy, you don't want to enforce that behavior, so you just ignore it. And when they realize it won't cause a reaction, they stop.
Yeah.
And then they go do their own research and stuff and they stop. So I have practiced a lot of tuning out, which like a smile and nod, but that can be very overwhelming and cause you to overthink. So at this point, genuinely just look like I'm ignoring a screaming puppy. I don't give them any reaction whatsoever.
Yeah. And I think that's fair.
Hmm.
And then do they go away?
Yeah, their ignorance is not my burden to bear in my mind now, especially people who have been very close to me for very long. They've had enough time to come around. Another one that I think is blissful ignorance.
Hmm.
I do this with people who might know me well and I just act stupid. Like when people ask me what my real job is, I act like I don't understand that they're being ignorant and rude a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just go deep into explanation in like a very nice, condescending way where I'm like, no, this is my real job. And I educate them on the amount of education it takes and what my scheduling looks like and all of the behind the scenes. Cause sometimes all they see is me just painting some French tips and not having to have an inventory system and manage other people and the people I hire to do all these things for me and what that looks like. And then my last reaction is when somebody just really does their big one.
Hmm.
And I'm just over it. And I never do this, but sometimes you just have to be a little mean. And this, I would say I do this maybe 0.005% of the time. They'll be like, "How's your little nail hobby going?" I'll be like, "First of all, I'm a licensed nail technician. I'm not sure if you know what licensed means since you don't have one, but I could explain it to you. And secondly, it's going great. If you want me to recommend you somewhere, you can go, and you just kinda have to humble people.
I love that. And I feel like you have a real, I don't know, spicy attitude and can do that.
Yeah, I people tell me that all the time when I'm telling them these stories about how I had to humble someone and be mean, and they're like, "You're the only person I know who could do that."
I was just talking to our mom 10 minutes ago and I was telling her to do some confrontation thing. And she was like, I just don't think that I can. And I'm like, honestly, sometimes you just have to count to three and be mean
Mhm.
and move on.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think about it afterwards, sometimes you don't, but it happened and then you got to let it
Mhm.
go. Okay, so as we're on the topic of reactions to what people say, you did give in to some shoulds. You did go to college and follow some of the shoulds that people were telling you that you should do. So when did you realize that you weren't doing any of that for yourself?
This was a very long process. I would say it started in nail school when I first started actually thinking about my future because when
Hold
I
on. So timeline wise, you were in high school and getting your associate's degree with the program to go to
yeah,
college. And then at the same time, you were in nail school.
yeah,
So you had a lot of competing priorities
yeah.
going on at
So
this time.
for 2 years, I was in 3 schools, not a moment of peace. But going to nail school was very unexpected. At the time, it was more of a quick process that would have gotten me a job for while I was in college and would have supported me while I was looking for, like, a real job, you know?
A quote unquote real job.
Quote, unquote, "real job." So that's the mindset I went into it with, and I hated college with a
Hmm.
passion, and at the time, my grandparents were having me do extra work to earn my allowance by researching different careers, and I was so bad at it, and at that point, I was already failing classes and running in circles around my college degree just to do it without doing it, you know?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I still was putting effort into it. I would go to some classes and I would give it my 100% just because I thought to myself, like, "I want this, like, I wanna go to school. Why can I physically not do it?"
Yeah.
And not in, like, an ADHD way, you know?
Yeah.
And I was doing my best, and then I realized I could wake up and go to school, nail school, no problem. I could stay late every day, and I was almost skipping my college classes so I could stay at nail school longer and do it as fast as possible so I could get into the salon and doing all of that. And then when I graduated from college getting my associates, it felt like I had done nothing. Like I accomplished nothing. I dropped out of my program and just went for general just so you guys could see me walk because I thought that would make everybody happy because there was no like big celebration when I graduated nail school or nothing, but I was already working and doing all of that. And so I was like, you know what, let me just walk. If I really enjoy doing nails, so let me just get that over with. And if I want to go back, I'll go back. And I remember that was the worst time in my life, low key. And I remember walking down the thing and going to the dinner that we were going at.
Yeah.
And I remember just feeling very alone. And everybody was talking to each other. And nobody even took a picture with me until I forced my mother to. Bless her heart.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, and I was just like, I took these flashcards, I earned my allowance, I walked for you guys when I tried dropping out multiple times, and I was like, "Really? What's the point?" And at my graduations, instead of congratulations, everybody asked me what I was gonna do next, so I was like, "Why would I do this all with no support other than being told to do it?" And so I was like, "You know what? Maybe nails aren't forever, but I have a license, I love doing it, everything in my life at this point revolves around nails, and I'm just gonna take a year and pour my heart into it and ignore everyone. It's like, that is not my business. So for nails, that is my business. Book with me.
So when you were in college and doing nails, you took that you preferred being at nail school as a data point to show that that's what you were really passionate about and wanted to do. But then walking at graduation, which I remember was a horrible day for you, that was when you really realized, like, I'm in the should trap. and I'm listening to all of these voices tell me what to do, but they're not actually the ones doing it, so I'm gonna move forward
Yeah.
with what I actually want to do.
I think I realized how alone I was during college
Yeah,
and everything. And I realized I was looking back and I was like, what do I do next? And I realized the thing I do next, I'm not going to have this perceived help I thought I had.
yeah,
And so why would I do that?
and I think that makes a ton of sense. So once you started doing nails and you left the should trap that you realized that you were and you started doing what you were passionate about, how did you continue choosing yourself?
When I started doing nails, a lot of people pivoted with me and they were like, you need to make so much money. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I was like, "No, I don't." And you just have to realize that the universe has it in your hands, and it took me a long time to set boundaries with who I wanted to take. I was not enjoying it at a certain point because I had so many clients who I just, no offense, did not like and were making my life miserable. And I just woke up one day and I was like, "Actually, that's not for me. I'm 19. Nothing is that deep." I think you just have to taking life a whole lot less seriously.
Yeah.
And if you can get out of the should trap, I think you can get out of the should trap while doing your passion.
And going off of that, I want to pivot a little bit to us as sisters and our generational should trap. So, like me getting out of the should trap, I'm still very corporate. I have my nonprofit job. I do this podcast, all of that. And then your escaping the should trap is very much like going after your art and after your passion. And
Mm.
both of ours involve a lot of creativity, which we value a lot.
And I think those create more should traps as it goes on. Like, I'm sure you get a lot of people being like, you should do this episode.
Yeah. So it's just about staying true to like
Yeah, I think it takes
yourself.
a lot of practice.
It does take practice for sure. So, to talk about the difference between us generationally. So, growing up as the oldest of three sisters, I was always trying to, I don't know, check a box, I guess, on a list that I didn't even write. And I guess it wasn't really until today talking to you that I realized that you also felt a lot of the should trap because what I've always seen from you is you creating your own list and going after your own passions and doing what you want. And obviously, I know that you went to college and you didn't like it, but I guess I always perceive that as you kind of exploring what you wanted to do and not blindly going along in the should trap. So, watching you for what I thought was you creating your own list was life changing for me. I don't know. When you were looking at my path and what I was doing, going to grad school, going to college, what did you think looking at my quote unquote perfect path compared to what you were being told you should do slash what you were doing?
I would honestly say I was quite envious and jealous of both you and Sephi, our other sister,
Yeah.
for the viewers. You guys, well, you specifically always seemed like you had it together and your life always fell into place. And I recognize now that was hard work. And Sephi always had so much support around her and so much attention on her,
Yeah.
which I think also affected you and you having to seem perfect all the time. And you really sold that to me. And most of the time, I very much felt like I was in the shadows and left behind, which was fine. I'm a strong, brave girl. After you guys moved out and it was just me, it felt like all of a sudden I had all these eyes on me, but like also our parents were burnt out.
Yeah.
And so it was like, they were like, here is the expectation. You've watched your sisters, now do it. And that was very confusing for me to be like, all of a sudden, I'm already behind, because it was like I already should have been doing these things, but I was too busy off doing whatever I wanted.
Being a hoodlum.
Being a hoodlum, for real. I spent a lot of my time going through some very interpersonal stuff, and I was very alone because I felt like you were so perfect, and I always had to be perfect enough to where I wasn't taking any attention away from your accomplishments, but to where I wasn't drawing attention to myself. Like nothing negative, nothing bad. And so it didn't leave like a lot of room to ask people to teach me how to do things because it already felt like it was too late. And I was just very jealous and envious.
So
And
you had this idea of what you should be based
Mhm.
on what I was doing and what Steffi was doing. And then when we left for college, what you then should be doing. So did you see that as some predetermined idea of what life should be once we
I
left?
it was very strange because I knew what my predetermined path had been set, and I don't think I had the tools to put it together, and I remember looking up to you so much that I was constantly comparing my own success to you and being jealous that you knew how to put, like, one foot front of the other, and at the time, I didn't comprehend that you probably felt the same experience as me in both, like, different, but, like, the
Yeah.
same, to where we had the same definitions, but different tools and everything happens for a reason. And so when you guys moved out, I just did not care. I did not think about college. I did not do any of that. And I did a ton of attention seeking things. And now I have all these experiences that I've developed on my own to go through. And I think that made my relationship with you and Seffi a lot better to where I was able to relate to you guys more.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I think when we were younger, May and I are 7 years apart, just as a note there. So you were always a lot closer with Seffi. And I always felt like, as the oldest, I had to be very on and perfect all the time to make sure that you guys had a good life and were looked after, and that I was kind of a thrown into the deep end of the pool kind of a person to learn and figure out how to put one foot in front of the other on my own. And I guess I never really taught you how to do that. So then you look at me and you see me putting one foot in front of the other. And then there's just that break across our generational should traps where
Huh.
we had such different expectations at such different times that we couldn't support each other when we were in the situation. And now that we're out of the situation and we can reflect on it, we are super
I think
close.
it was just very difficult for me because I didn't know what end of the pool to fall on.
Yeah.
Because it felt like I'd been thrown into the deep end, but everybody was telling me I was in the shallow
Yeah.
and I was super chill bonita. And I think that just made me very angry that nobody taught me how to swim because they thought I was in the shallow. But once I got there, I was like, we're out here. Let's have a party.
Yeah. Yeah. So then did you realize, I guess pre or post me going to college, did you realize you were going against a predetermined idea of what life should be? Or did you see that differently than me? And did you see it differently before I left versus when I did leave?
I think I realized I was going against the path early and I knew what was expected of me, but I didn't have any interest until I was like a junior in high school. And I mean, I did, but I thought it would just like happen. I didn't realize you had to put work in. And I think that what we were talking about earlier was I did see it differently because I didn't have a bunch of checklist. I had a bunch of terms like college and good grades and stuff. And it kind of was like a test where the topic was life checklist, and I studied and had a pencil, but then I blinked.
Hmm.
That was my beautiful metaphor I came up with.
I liked it. Very literary.
And I think by the time it was my turn to figure things out, nobody was telling me to do anything. Like they were like, go to college, do this, but nobody was like, let's go look at colleges, let's do this. And I was like, well,
So you
I'll
had
figure it
like a
out.
notebook paper with a bunch of terms written on it, but no dictionary in sight. You didn't know
Yeah.
what any of that meant, what any of it looked like. All you knew is what your sisters were doing, and you didn't want to do that at all and didn't think that was the only way to look at it.
Yeah.
Now that you've broken out of the shit trap and you recognize all of these things, what does perfect look like to you today, now, for your perfect life and your perfect self?
This one took a lot of years to find out, and I think it really falls into the should trap because I thought perfect for the longest time would be my own salon, celebrity clients, like top of the nail food chain. Because anybody you talk to when you tell them you do nails, they're like, "Oh, do you own your own salon? Like, do you do all this?" And you're like, "No, I don't. I will one day." And you feel like you should want to do that one day. But when I was envisioning the future, I would always stop and be like, wait, I forgot to include my salon, you know,
Hmm.
which would be amazing if I could have that. That'd be phenom.
Yeah.
But I think right now, what perfect to me would just be being content and not having to do too much when I'm burnt out, but having like financial freedom and the freedom of my time. And I would love to do like more competitions and crazy art and having a community that I really enjoy having and not being stressed, not taking
Yeah.
things so serious.
So perfect to you right now isn't exactly the should of growth and being the absolute
Yeah.
best, biggest you can be, but just finding contentment and personal safety in
Mhm.
yourself and your community.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good goal to have.
And I think once you've mastered that, you can start thinking more about growth.
But I feel that with like my podcast and my nonprofit stuff too. It's like make the most money, but I don't make a ton of money in nonprofits. And,
Mhm.
sometimes I just want to help
And
environmental and social issues and not, be the most wealthy or connected
mhm.
person in the
I
world.
think you really have to look into your morals for that because I was the same. That's the whole reason nails were really hard for me when I was first starting this. I was like, I should be helping people. That would be perfect to me. And I should be a millionaire by the time I'm 25.
Yeah.
These unrealistic expectations. But I think perfect is balance. Like now, I do make my money and I charge people appropriately, which took a long time to get to and set those boundaries of seeing myself as a business owner and charging what I should. But also, once a month, I go volunteer at the homeless shelter or the senior citizen area.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm very happy doing that to where I
Yeah.
found that balance.
Yeah. So you can have your creative, cool girl business, but then also if you have the morals to do other things, you volunteer.
Hmm.
And that it's just like about creating a full, whole life for yourself that isn't centered by one
Yeah.
specific thing, but is a orbit of planets, like an inside out, like the brain
Yeah.
islands, having
Yeah.
a whole bunch of them for all of the different aspects of you. Okay, so since you own your own business and you obviously make your own schedule and you have a changing schedule, how do you turn your brain off and relax after a busy day of like owning your own business and having that around you?
I love my schedule. I think it's very important to figure out what works for you. I do a week on, week off basis where I fully book myself and it's a lot of basic, quick in and out, like hour sets where I can do 8 people a day, no problem. And then the next week, I do maybe one person a day. And that's where I take all my super creative, fun clients and I get to plan around vacations or weekend trips. I literally only want to work when I want to. I never work on my period. That sounds horrible. And when I find out people do,
And
I
that's
feel
fair.
sick to my stomach for them. The only stressful part I would say that can get very overwhelming is the money aspect where you don't ever know your exact paycheck and keeping up on budgeting is hard because you have to do it every single day.
Yeah.
But I would say that my job is honestly my relaxation. If it's a client that I love talking to or even a silent appointment, at this point it's muscle memory and I can just lock in. And I often find myself sitting at my salon 2 to 3 hours after every day, just sitting there and turning my brain off while I work.
So for people who don't have such a creative outlet, but you would recommend like finding a meditative practice where you can turn your brain off
Yeah.
while doing something active that's kind of like a
That's another
automatic,
thing. You have to
but
Pavlov train yourself. Like stretching is so important in this industry that you literally I've Pavlov trained myself to really enjoy yoga. But yeah, I would say just the meditative time, like people who sit in their car for a long time after,
yeah.
like just finding something where you can turn your brain off. Cause even like I love going on trips out of town. Like Zane and I, we go do something crazy. But
Zian is her boyfriend.
yeah, he's my boyfriend. But I don't know, like cooking and stuff. Usually I try and find a fun meal prep recipe, and I find that just something where you don't have to think, or you, like, have to think so hard you're only thinking about that.
So, last thing, would you rather wear a corporate power suit, shoulder pads, and all, probably monochrome gray, all day, every day for a year,
Oh, I
or
didn't read that part.
or have to wear a neon green tracksuit to every family event for the rest of your life?
Is a tracksuit juicy couture?
Like, does it say juicy across the butt?
Yeah,
I'll allow it.
because I didn't see all day every day for a year, and it's only monochrome gray.
Yeah.
Do I
Maybe you could add like a cute pop of color and like a brooch or something.
like, I can't put on a ton of makeup and jewelry or nothing?
I mean,
'Cause I think I could really quantify that.
I think you could. I think you could.
But I also wear tracksuits pretty much every day.
You're wearing jeans right now.
Well, I'm not working.
But the neon tracksuit is to family events. So then you can wear whatever you want outside of that.
I think the corporate suit would be a fun way to it's only a year. It would be a
Right.
fun way to explore my style.
I think it would be too, because then you can figure out accessories and like
Yeah, I think
things.
it would be a challenge, but
Yeah.
I could make it work.
Yeah. But I think that's an interesting commentary on finding your personal style. Is like choose a capsule outfit and figure out what you love about what you can do with it to make it something that you
Yeah,
love. Even if the neon tracksuit has juicy across the butt.
that would be beautiful, yes, I would buy that.
Okay. Would you rather have a tiny version of our most shouldy relative sitting on your shoulder giving you advice 24/7, or only talk in corporate speak using words like synergy and circle back for an entire week, including with clients and your boyfriend?
Is the shitty relative forever?
Ooh, no, let's say it's just the week.
I want both.
You want our grandmother sitting on your shoulder, talking in your ear, telling you what you should be doing?
Is she blind? I think I could take her commentary, but I think I would get really embarrassed certain times. Because I feel like sometimes they do have good points.
Yeah,
I could learn a lot if
yeah,
given the time to get it all out.
yeah.
And also, I've been trying to use less filler words
Hmm.
and have a more refined speech.
So they'd pinch you every time.
Yeah, I think that could really work for me.
I could see that. I could see that. I didn't think you would choose that. That surprised me. Would you rather lose your signature scent and smell like a new car air freshener or wear heels everywhere for a year?
I want you to envision something for me, okay?
Okay. I'm
Imagine
going to close my eyes.
a beautiful pair of pleasers, stripper heels.
Uh-huh.
You see me walking in, I have a nice blowout.
Yeah.
And
Very
or
mom
like
life is what I'm picturing.
even the neon tracksuit with some neon
Yes.
pleasers and some neon hair feathers
Oh my God.
with my black opium YSL.
I see the vision.
You see the vision.
I see it. I think that would work for you.
I think it would too. I've been trying to get into heels.
They're hard.
I just feel
Full
so
stripper heels.
tall.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if they're new heels every day, I think
You can make it work.
yeah, they're not gonna fall apart.
So, final thing to anyone out there exploring where they want to go from here, or they're maybe worried about what people will think, or maybe they're still in that holding their breath phase, waiting for a moment for the world to quiet so they can find who they are. Do you have any advice for them?
I do. And I think it's super difficult and takes a lot of time of unlearning and learning yourself and your environment and everything. And first of all, judgment is the patriarchy.
Damn
Down with,
straight.
down with the patriarchy. Nobody has to look through your eyes but you. And look at the way you look at other people. Tell yourself affirmations. And the way you perceive other people is like a reflection of how you perceive yourself. So be very kind to yourself and it'll change your life. And number one thing, stop taking things so serious. Put all your trust in the universe and yourself. It'll work out. And secondly, to find what you want to do, let go of what you know and go outside. Look at your Instagram Explore page. What's the number one thing? If it's cooking or sewing, go take a class or go to a convention and just talk to people and ask if you can try it or be brave, you know? Or even what I did was ask your younger self what you wanted to be. Like I told you I wanted to be a dentist, went to dental school, hated it, and now 90% of the skills and tools I use are ones a dentist would use. And, you know, if you wanted to be a pop star, write a song, go to karaoke. You just have to be uncomfortable to learn how to be comfortable, and it'll all work out.
Great.
That's my advice.
Well, thank you, May, for being on this podcast today.
You're welcome.
And thank you, listeners, so much for listening to this episode. I hope that you learned a little bit of something about the should trap and exploring bravery and finding some more about yourself and what perfect looks like to you today. I'm going to put May's website for her nail business and her Instagram in the show notes, so be sure to check her out. I also have those linked on the podcast Instagram. I would appreciate if you would rate, follow, comment. Any interaction really does help. If you're on Instagram and you would like to follow the podcast Instagram, it is darksideofperfect.pod. That is darksideofperfect, period, Pod. I hope you're finding joy wherever you are today, and I will see you next time.